asked to accept the certainty of suffering and death. Schools in Indiana have shut down after one day of opening. 260 teachers and staff were sidelined by COVID during in-service days, preparing for online classes. And in Arizona, teachers in the classroom all contracted the virus and one died. We are asked to shut and lock our classroom doors on the off chance an active shooter is in the building. But under Plan A, we are throwing open asthma, hypertension, and our conditions to diabetes. 42% of our staff is at high risk for complications or lives with someone or provides care to high-risk family members. And I'm sure this is similar throughout the community. Our staff and students will be bringing home this virus just like they used to bring home books and papers, and it will spread to family members. I don't want to see the students and colleagues I love get sick or die, or about how the virus works in schools that have already returned. Let's stop the spread before it starts. Let's do what we can to prevent another Columbine or Sandy Hook, this time with the virus pulling the trigger. Thank you.
Jason Fitzhugh.
Hi, my name is Jason Fitzhugh. I teach 7th grade social studies at the junior high. I'm also co-president of MEA. I'm here to share 2 letters from 2 of my colleagues who could not be here tonight. The first letter begins, I am a Milford science teacher and I am incredibly concerned about the plan to return students and teachers to the building at this time. I have followed the developing science of this virus all summer, and I believe that opening up schools is the worst thing we can do for our community right now. The viral spread is too high, and until we can get the numbers lower and improve testing capacity, we are risking too much. I don't know how there can be any social or emotional learning in our classrooms. Students will never see my face and will probably never clearly hear my words. Teachers will be hidden behind masks and face shields, terrified of the students and the germs they may or may not be breathing out. Students will not be allowed to work together in groups or complete labs because I cannot be responsible for viral spread in my classroom. Students will be working on their computers independently while I stay far away from them at the front of the classroom, as will many other teachers. There will be fear and anxiety in the classroom, not the joy I have worked so hard to create every year for over 20 years. I will probably eat lunch alone in my car because I am terrified to eat in my classroom and that 100 plus students have breathed into each day. And I certainly couldn't eat in a room with my colleagues who I will miss dearly. My mind will not be on teaching the subjects that I am so usually passionate about, but instead will be focused on whether or not today is the day I bring this virus home to my family. And I know that many of my students will feel the same. The second letter begins, after 2 decades in the Milford School District, I have come to know a few things. First, effective teaching and learning can take many forms. Second, the best teachers adapt to their circumstances and help their students do the same. I have taught online classes in addition to my Milford duties for over 8 years. Each time I do so, my experience solidifies my belief that online learning can be rigorous, engaging, and sometimes even better than face-to-face. I have full confidence in myself and my colleagues to execute Plan B with fidelity. And because Plan B is the only true safe plan and the only plan that provides continuity for students, I urge the board to make the right decision tonight. I keep hearing people say that the risk is not that bad in Clermont County, and if you take a cursory glance at the data, you might think that as well. But according to Georgia Tech's events estimator, a group of 25 people meeting in Clermont County today has a 23% chance of at least one person being infected with COVID-19. Now extrapolate that to the number of classrooms across the district. If we're being honest, all of us know that at some point this semester, students and teachers will be working remotely. I'm watching the meeting right now with my colleagues who are, like me, hoping that your leadership will allow us to start the year safely and remotely. Thank you.
Thank you. Shane Elkin.
My name is Shane Elkin. I'm a 7th grade math teacher at Milford Junior High and MEA co-president. First, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to address the board and the administrators that are here in attendance tonight. MEA surveyed our membership, and I thought it was important to share that data. We had 393 members respond out of approximately 410 to 420. 46% were comfortable with Plan A. 54% were not comfortable with Plan A. 78% were comfortable with Plan B, and 22% were not comfortable with Plan B. I do not envy you. You have a difficult decision to make. I look forward to returning to work. I am comfortable in any plan. However, many of my members are not comfortable with Plan A. I just want you to think about one thing as you make this decision. When we return to school, people will get sick. That's a given. The question is, if the wrong person gets sick, possibly somebody could die. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to you, and I just want you to think about that as we move forward with this decision. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. That's all I had.
No other public comment?
No more.
Okay, we'll close public comment and move on to item 1. Board.
And I have not been to one of these meetings before, so I was not a part of being assigned or given a name to participate that to come to CLERMONT. Is it customary for me not to look?
No, you can.
Can I say
You
something
can-
wrong?
you can.
I have nothing prepared,
Yeah.
but I would like to.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak this evening? Okay, good, yeah.
Okay, so I have nothing prepared. My name is Suzanne Pasley, and I'm a critical care nurse at Bethesda North, and I am a mother of a junior and a former student. And I have seen many of my colleagues, nurses and physicians friends, who are becoming very sick. Miami Township has a great volume of patients to Bethesda North. We are inundated. The healthcare system is really having, we're struggling. We really are. We are working with little resources. Many people don't realize that the healthcare industry has crumbled in my 25 years of nursing. And we have a huge amount of, my forte is heart failure. We have a huge heart failure population here in Claremont County and in Miami Township. And I think we're going to see a significant amount of very sick people. And I made a phone call today to the Claremont County Commissioner. By the way, my background's infection control. Worked through H1N1 and other Ebola and other. And I called the Claremont County Health Commissioner today, and I'm waiting for a phone call. I should have called these ago. I'm curious what the official decision. I know there's a lot of barriers. There's financial barriers for the parents who want their children to go to school. But we've got high school students that we could at least do that much. That they are maybe more concentrated, higher volume maybe than some of the other schools. I called yesterday to the Board of Education and found that there is currently about 80% of kids, 80 to 85% are going to the high school. That is, people are, I mean, I'm 50 over, and parents are, I'm sorry, I'm very concerned once you live it and you see the effects of COVID, which I this strain in the healthcare system. Thank you.
Last chance, anyone else? We'll close public comment and move on to item 1, which is the discussion and approval of the return to learn plan for the 2020-2021 school year. I'm going to call on Superintendent Spicer to begin your presentation regarding to that plan.
Yes. First thing I'd like to do is I'd like to read a statement to you that I've thought about leading up to the meeting today, and that is, President Ham, members of the board, there's nothing easy about what we're going to embark upon this school year. Pause and reflect on the events and decisions surrounding the opening of schools this fall. There are certainly many reasons to be confused, saddened, and even angry about how the current health crisis is affecting schools. Tonight, we will discuss the Return to Learning Plan. I want to thank and take this opportunity to thank our 65 teachers and administrators for pouring countless hours into the process. Today, Dr. Dunn mentioned to me that we have spent at least 40 different facilitated meetings in the past 3 months, all dedicated to this plan and a return to learning that takes into consideration the needs of our students, families, and educators. There's no doubt that Milford has the best educators, best teachers. They're being pulled in many directions, wondering, how do I care for my students, their health and well-being, and the balance that with caring for themselves and their families? Families are presented with a similar situation. Do I send my students to in-person learning or keep them home? What about their mental health, physical fitness, and nutrition? We have taken all of these factors into account when developing this return to learning. We are attempting to determine the next steps to bring kids back to school while standing in the middle of many forces and competing objects. We do not have all the answers, but we are working very hard to figure them out. Milford will continue to adapt and pivot as Governor DeWine changes orders and as new guidelines come to us. Teachers and students are our most valuable resource. I know that the board and administration will continue to keep students and staff at the forefront of every decision. What I'd like to do is go through just a few things this team has discussed, and we would like to make it that if a choice is not made by this state, that students will automatically be placed in school versus Eagle Online. We believe that making the in-school option helps us to plan for staffing, and it will be easier and a better option for families to opt into the Eagle Online. So we would like to ask that as you consider the plan, that we would like for that to say automatically placed in person. Okay?
In case that somebody's responded, in order to decide between Eagle Online and in person, they will likely be in person.
Yes.
We also are going to make an attempt to reach out to those that respond to try and get a response.
Absolutely. We've had some of our principals already go door to door and make those contacts this week, so we'll continue to make those contacts, whether it be in person or by phone. But absolutely, we will continue to make those contacts this week, even though the deadline is not until Friday evening. We'll continue to do that so that we get the most accurate data possible.
What percentage of all the parents in the district do we have who have responded at this point?
At this point, I'm going to look over at Rob, and I think he's going to tell me that we're about 1,000 short.
We have about 5,000 have submitted.
About 5,000 have submitted.
Leaves us about.
Rob, would you come up to the podium, that way they can get it?
Right around the iPad. The ICRC piece is choppy and it's freezing, so hopefully when it's the recorded version, they'll get to see that one better. We'll make sure we share it out. As of today, this is current, as of today, we've had 4,971 responses. and our total population will be 6,466. So we're missing about 1,500, five less than that. I have it broken down by grade level, by building. If there's anything you want to know, this would be the time.
What's the overall number?
The overall breakdown side to side?
Yes.
78.86% of the respondents have chosen in person, and 21.14% have chosen online.
What about by school?
Well, I don't have percentages by school, but I will tell you, I have it by grade level, like not percentages, but how many have responded. It's relatively consistent in the sense of how many are choosing by grade level, like building to building. It's not like one building has, 25 fifth grade and then another building has 3. So it's generally consistent that way. And the number has been, if I were to say it's been trending anyway, the online number has gone up a little bit since 2 weeks ago when we started this. But not like.
And those that have submitted, that may be waiting for this meeting to see what direction we take, will have the opportunity to change their mind between now and Friday.
They will.
Okay.
And the reason we talked about making in-person the standard option is because it makes more sense to assume that. And then if they ultimately choose online, we can always adjust for that, because that's going to be, us planning that way will help. And as Mr. Spicer had said, beyond every attempt will be made many, many times to reach out to parents. I know Mr. Wilson, he was going door to door with paper versions of it. Some are making the calls and doing the forms online. So beyond every attempt will be made to make that number the complete one. Nobody left out.
Rob, what about 7th and 8th graders, the junior high?
Yeah, that's interesting because I can only theorize, but 8th grade is a lot higher. And my guess would be it's because students who are in 8th grade were there in 7th grade, so they know the facility, the parents maybe know the facility, and they're possibly taking into account that much movement of students in that population. So 8th grade, there are 92 who have said online, and in 7th grade, there are 69 of them who have.
What was that again, Rob?
69 7th graders have chosen online and 92 8th graders.
I thought, yeah, I thought more
That's not percent, that's numbers.
number of students. So do we have a much bigger 8th grade class in 7th
Well,
grade?
here, I'll put it this way. In person, 7th grade, 325 people have chosen in person. 8th grade, 323 have chosen in person. So it's almost the same. But when you go to the online, 69 7th grade families have chosen online, and 92 8th grade families have chosen online. So the 8th grade numbers are higher that have chosen online. And that number remains a little bit more consistent in high school. 92 9th grade, 99 10th grade, 79 11th grade, and 92 12th grade. Do you want to know all the grade levels real quick? I can run down them all.
Is it on a percentage basis?
It's the numbers.
Okay.
How many people have said, how many specific students in that grade level will be in online? Kindergarten is 61, first grade is 74, second grade is 74, third grade is 73, fourth grade is 78, fifth grade is 83, sixth grade is 83, then seventh grade is 69, eighth grade is 92, and I did those other ones. And this is current as of today, and with all duplicates removed. And yes, some people did submit it like 6 times.
What about the high school?
Can you do high school too?
Yeah, so 8th grade 92, 9th grade 92, 10th grade 99, 11th grade 81, 12th grade 92. Raw number. Raw number. It's like 80-20.
I'm going to have to ask you to stop. Unfortunately, the way the board meeting works is we have public comment, but we can't have back and forth going on while the meeting's going on.
So to talk, yeah.
A monthly business meeting, but yeah, certainly afterwards, hook up.
An average class size would be or 80, I'm guessing?
Well,
Or even
I would
higher?
say, if you'd say 475 to average it, it would be safe. Some are higher, some are lower.
Okay.
And I would also quickly calculate that that's still an approximate 80-20 split across the board when you go down that. Nothing strays very far from that, but it's, maybe as you get higher in grades, it's a little bit higher, but everything's in the 70s or 80s or 90s. So in our general, so I think to say it ranges from 76% to 82% would be fair to say. Oh, depending on the grade.
Can you gather, Rob, in terms of the people who have not responded, is that more leaning toward one grade level or another, or is that pretty even all across the?
That is a really good question. It is not. I can tell you how many haven't responded in each grade level. If you want to know how many people have not responded in each grade level, I can give you those numbers.
A rough idea.
Kindergarten, we've had 69 families not respond. In first grade, we've had 103 families not respond. Second grade, we've had 105 families not respond. Third grade, 112. Fourth grade, 109. Fifth grade, 99. Sixth grade, 104. Seventh grade, 98. Eighth grade, 121. Ninth grade, 115. 10th grade, 110. 11th grade, 177. And 12th grade, 162.
I didn't write all of those numbers down, but it seems pretty consistent till you get to the high school. It looks like the higher percentage
Gets when you
at
get
the
up
high
there.
school have not responded.
That is correct. But you're right, it stays relatively consistent till the junior high. Yeah, 11th and 12th grade. It's really a little skewed there.
So unless I wrote down a number wrong or punched it in wrong, it looks like 18% of seventh graders have chosen online.
I mean, if somebody wants to calculate it real quick, it would be, there are 415 total students, no.
Oh, I didn't count those who didn't respond.
Yeah, it would
I knew I
actually
was
be
doing something
492 total students.
492.
There should be. But you can't really calculate it because, well, you'd have to subtract the 98 that haven't responded because we don't know what they're. So what would that make? 394? So it'd be 394, and then you could do the percent.
If it falls out, the 80-20, which is kind of, what does that do for class sizes? Like online, does it help? It doesn't really help spacing in the schools.
Well,
Or-
that's a really good question. That really depends. It could help. Ideally, it
will.
will help to a degree, but we'll also have to decide, does it skew those numbers so much that we make a decision that that's how we'll help staff online? So it's also going to come to the point of how many of the online people are going to be absorbed through these numbers us to pull from certain grade levels because it drops them enough, or is it additional employment, which could be up to these, maybe more, but could be up to 14.
Do we have an idea of what, for elementary, not junior high, high school, class size is for online?
Well, I
I
do.
mean, what's acceptable? Because I know there are class size, you can have so
We
many
talked about it.
students.
Well, we said they're self-contained. If it's just the kids you're working with and you're doing all content areas, we thought we'd still stick around 30 because you're doing more, less, anyway. And then if you get into a teaming situation, if we did that in the upper grades, we would probably need, you would have 60, but there'd be 2 people because you might split subjects. So still kind of in that 30 range with a little leeway to go up a little bit if they're teaming. Less leeway if they're self-contained because you're doing all the subjects.
Thank you, Rob.
Is that good?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
I've had some very impassioned pleas on both sides, impassioned pleas from parents who really feel their kids need to be back in school, and I've had impassioned pleas the other way that we should not do so. I'm pleased that at least the plan is giving parents and students a choice in terms of whether they feel comfortable going back to the classroom or if they prefer to be at home, and if that works better for them. However, the one variable in all of that is the fact, and I also sympathize with teachers who may be uncomfortable about going in the classroom. Have we done any surveys in terms of the ability to juggle faculty around to be able to put as many people as possible who are uncomfortable about going back in the classroom in the online program, or are those numbers just not workable?
Jenny Berkeley has spent the last 2 days meeting with all staff members who felt as if there was a chance that they might be compromised in some way or had a family member, et cetera. And so from those meetings, and those folks will need to make some decisions about, they'll have options, family corona leave, Family Medical Leave Act, also emergency family medical leave, and possibly a sabbatical leave as well. So we have been working, Jenny has been working with them directly, potentially not in front of, if you will. So we do have options for them available right now. And then if we don't have the number of staff, and we have more students that need to go online, then we will then have to go into buildings and insert staff to see who is an option for that and if they would like to do it. So yes, they do have some options.
That would be my concern as far as teachers are concerned, that we've given parents, we've given students an option, we give teachers options, and that's what my concern is, whether or not we have adequate staffing to make this program work.
Well, I think Rob hinted to that, we will have to look at that, and we could have to add staff because of this Eagle Online plan. Absolutely.
Let me just make a comment. I think it's Susan. Susan, is that right? Sorry, I didn't mean to be abrupt with you, but in terms of board rules and how we run the meetings, but we also will have, people are available afterwards to talk, as well as we have a second public comment.
Over to you for further discussion. As we begin this return to learning, and I had mentioned earlier that we're going to have to be able to pivot and adapt and be responsive, flexible in all situations, whether it be the classroom, administratively. We receive different weekly orders from the government. Over the weekend, Saturday night into Sunday morning, we, under the cloak of darkness, there was a new order, Wake Up Sunday, about high school athletics and contact sports. And so, at a moment's notice, we'll have to be flexible and to operate under those orders. There was an order today on masks. At the time that I was preparing this, I didn't have the general, the specifics of it, but there's going to be a new mask order, and we're going to have to look at it, follow it. Which looks at the second bullet point that all folks, when we're in person, will need to follow the guidelines set forth by the Ohio Department of Health and certainly the Claremont County Public Health, and follow those guidelines. And we've said this before, that school as we once knew it, it was not going to look the same. Things will be different. We're going to have to ask for a lot of patience and grace, and do our best to return to a normal school setting as best we can. Also, the next two slides will cover the COVID risk levels under Plans A and Plan B. In our plan, under Level 2 and Level 3, go forward so we can see both real quick, go back. Under Level 2 and again Level 3, the board has discretion, along working with the superintendent and central office team, to make decisions. It could be that we're in a Level 2 in Claremont County, but Milford school community is in a COVID crisis of sorts, and so we'll need to move into Plan B. And so we'll have to have that flexibility. Same goes with Level 3. We'll need to have some discretion to make those decisions, what's best for our school community. As I move to the next slide, The Milford Central Office team is going to continuously monitor the data that's given to us. We're in constant contact with our local public health commissioner, Julianne Nesbitt. I spoke to her on the phone last night. And of course, we have Patty Price, who's our district school nurse. And we were going to continue to look at data throughout the week. We're going to meet on Thursday afternoons to look at 7-day trends. And then to, see what the data is telling us. And then the team will determine if there's a shift in the model is needed for the next week. And so what we'll do is we'll communicate on Fridays. For instance, if it's determined that we need to shut down, we'll communicate that on Friday, that on Monday there'll be a shutdown, and then we intend to move to Plan B, which would be remote learning, and remain in remote learning for at least 2 weeks. We want to make a commitment to our students, teachers, and families so that we're not moving back and forth every other day between in-person or remote. Okay. And some of the data that we're going to consider as we, looking through things throughout the week is, what's the health risk currently? What's the trend? Does it look like we're moving to 3? Are we moving to 4? Are we moving back down to a 2? Also, zip code trends. Currently, Clermont County does not have zip code data for COVID tracing. They're expecting to have that in the next 2 to 3 weeks. We should have that. Currently, Hamilton County, they do have it. So we're hoping that will happen sooner rather than later. We'll also be looking at student and staff attendance numbers and trends. Certainly the COVID-19 cases that are in our schools. And we'll be working closely with the Clermont County Public Health and contact tracing and exposure. And then, of course, the district will assess our risk with cases within the district and our specific schools. And again, we've been working very closely with Clermont County Public Health and our district nurse, Patty Price, in contact with them. Patty is our first line of defense with them. I am the second contact. And then any communications that need to be sent out.
Would we still be, according to the guidelines we have now, still be in both programs,
So
in person and online?
Yes, sir. So level 3 plan, it says Plan B. However, the Board of Education and the superintendent has the discretion to make the decision that we will remain or go to Plan A based upon any data that we have that would suggest that it makes sense for us to be in person and do an Eagle online. So that's how that would look.
So level, the red level could be either way, depending on judgment of the administration.
Yes, sir.
But-
Based on data.
The purple, we're saying, would definitely be all online, and the yellow and orange would be...
I think that's safe. Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's a safe bet.
And I think, the way I look at it, I think that level 1 and 2, in general, we're going to be Plan A. Level 3 and 4, we're generally going to be Plan B, under this recommendation, unless there's extraordinary circumstances between levels of 2 and 3.
Like we have no cases in Miami Township, an outbreak over in Felicity or in New Richmond or something like that that doesn't affect us. We would have the option to then stay.
Yes, sir. That's one reason why zip code statistics are very important.
I was on a call with the Hamilton County Health Commissioner and this week, and that's a very important data that they're getting and that we need. It's mind-boggling to think that both data or don't have the same ability to share that data. So the sooner that Clermont County can get that ability, the better off each and every school district will be better served.
Well, we also need to consider that we do border Hamilton County, so it's not just Clermont County. There are other factors involved as well, because we are in such close proximity to the northeastern suburbs of Hamilton County.
All over. Families from Milford definitely work in Hamilton regularly.
Many, many counties around here, so yeah.
Mhm.
right. I think that's it for the slides for me. I'll turn this back over to you.
John, question. In your last bullet there, you are talking about the district and the schools. So do you have specific guidelines for what will happen in the school based on the number of cases? Or are you going to be working with Mrs. Price and County for those?
Great question. Absolutely, we will work with Patty Price and Nesbitt, the health commissioner, Claremont County Public Health. She's made it very clear, though, that they have never shut schools down. They will work with us to make a decision to do that. We've not, our most recent past couple of years of flu, we've not gotten close to anything that would resemble a need to shut down. And I think there are multiple factors that would determine whether or not we need teacher absences, the inability to get subs. If they want to say if X percent is out, then we're going to close. I think we have to look at each school to monitor their own staffing and their students. So, but it could be a school.
As a former teacher, I agree with some of the speakers that it's vitally important to have our kids back in the classroom, if at all possible, and if we can do it safely. I certainly commend and thank the administrators who worked so hard all summer in developing these plans. But would you share with the whole group here a little more of some of the kinds of things that have been done to ensure safety?
Sure. So I can tell you that Rob today specifically has gone to each of the classrooms to look at furniture. He's also looking into different partitions, if you will. Shields. We have purchased shields probably 2 or 3 weeks ago. And then we also had a nice donation by Jesse, who's Jesse's Jesse had a nice donation for us as well. So we have some face shields for staff. We believe with Jeff Johnson, working with him, that we have adequate sanitizing station. 4 or 5 electrostatic sprayers that we'll be using that have antimicrobial, it creates like an antimicrobial, I don't want to say film, but on the surface of that, it's good for at least 30 days. So Jeff's staff is ready to use those. We are going to, we purchased, I'm looking over at Rob because he doesn't have it on today. That do meet the Ohio Department of Health guidelines. And the very last bullet actually on that page talks about purchasing from a local small business. Just make sure you're not getting scammed is what it said. So I appreciate Rob about different things that we're doing and can do. And we're working towards a possible MOU for the board to look at on the 20th. That's mostly COVID related. So I think we've done some things, and we're certainly open to listening to staff if there's more things that we should consider.
John, from what I've read, airflow is one of the most important things. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah.
What's been done in each of the buildings?
Yeah, so we've talked at length, I think, about the MERV 13. It's high-grade quality filter. I know that Jeff's budget on that has increased by, I want to say, it's doubled for sure. So it's close to $100,000 per year for every building to have these filters. We've also increased the airflow per the guidance that Jeff received, and so we've increased airflow throughout the building. So they have to intake more external air to bring it in, and the exchange. So I feel pretty confident in the airflow and the filters that we have right now.
So this will allow us, the increased airflow will allow us to turn the air over at a higher rate.
Yes, it is turning the air over at a higher rate. I'm not sure it's like an airplane. I think it's every 3 minutes is, what they say on the airplane, but it's definitely, we are increasing the airflow, and Jeff feels pretty confident with our air handlers right now that we're in good shape there.
And that's at all the schools, right?
Press conference today that they announced they were going to be acquiring 2 million masks to be given to the school districts in the state to use. Are we going to have extras available, especially on our buses, for those kids that do not have a mask?
5,000 masks for bus drivers to have, so they will have some extra masks on buses, et cetera. We will have extra masks for kids. I certainly believe that the expectation is that students will have them, but I think that our teachers sitting out here know that they're going to lose them or forget them, or something's going, they're going to get thrown away at lunch. So we'll have extras available to students, but we cannot have a continual supply of masks for everybody. So I think just it's become the norm that we all have masks now, and so the expectation is that folks will have them. We will have extras. We'll certainly work with families that we need to, and I think we'll be okay.
And how are we going to masks? There's a picture floating around the internet today, first day of school, hallways crowded, most of the kids don't have masks. What are we going to do to ensure that they keep?
I have the utmost faith in our staff and our students, and it's just, I think it's going to be an expectation. Many of them certainly at this point know that if you're going anywhere, you're wearing a mask, so I think they're going to be trained in that way. I do know that, and some of our, Jessie left, I believe Jessie's first or second grade? First grade teacher. I mean, she works miracles with kids every day, teaches them how to read. We can get kids to wear masks because we bring students in, kindergartners who have never been in a building before necessarily, or at least that building, and we can teach them the routines, the policies and procedures of being in a classroom and sitting in a chair and getting in line and walking down to lunch. I know that we can do that. I know that the students can. Don't want to be naive, but I think we'll be okay. I think our staff has that, and certainly it's going to be communication with parents. I mean, our buildings and building administration and teachers will have to communicate with parents if it becomes an issue. And at the end of the day, they have to wear a mask. If they're going to be in the building, they have to wear a mask.
And what about testing or screening in terms of ensuring that if a student is sick, that they don't come to school to spread it?
Well,
waiting on the test.
We certainly, I have this flow chart that would probably take us forever to go through. However, on one side, you can see in the top left-hand corner, you see the schoolhouse, and that is for students or employees that report an illness while at school. And then on the other side, you can see the house, the home, there it says students or employees report illness while at home. And these are the steps that they need to follow the flow chart. I think your question was if a student is a confirmed case.
Well, we want to make sure we don't have people bringing the virus into the school. It's a matter of how do we ensure if a student isn't feeling well that we get them to stay home and not bring it until we can confirm that it's not the virus.
It's definitely upon us to reiterate to families that if you're not feeling well, and we go through all of the symptoms with at the bottom and on symptoms, if you have any symptoms, you should probably stay home. So we're going to have to reiterate, we're going to have to train families, talk to them about these things. I think one thing that I would like to address is this need to take temperatures. After talking with the health commissioner, she does not believe that that's an effective use of resources and time for us to do. And most of the cases that they're seeing right now, according to her in Claremont County, fever is not part of their COVID cases. So we are not going to take temps of students or faculty as they come in. They're going to have to do their self-check at home before they come in and do some self-assessment. At the end of the day, I think that Dr. Hollinsworth said to us, elementary, especially elementary kids, you're going to know right away if kids are not feeling well. You know, we just know. I think our staff and teachers have this wonderful ability to know their students and how they're feeling, and we will get them to their nurse or health aide and make that call home.
I don't know though, because everybody's going to be off this year. In a normal year, I agree. I mean, they call, I get a call on the kid like, yeah, they were a little weird this morning. I get it. But I think that this year, there's so much else affecting the kids that I don't know that you're going to, and you can't see their faces, you can't see half of their faces. So I think that that's going to be a little bit harder. And I think that asymptomatic spread, that walk around and don't. And I'm less worried about a parent recognizing that, the Tylenol and sending their kid off than I am my kid looks fine and sending them without any visible signs. I personally think, and I found out what I should have off for this month, and I looked at what I wrote last month, it's still exactly true. I think we're spending a lot of resources figure out how to get kids in school when nobody thinks they can stay in school all fall. So, I wish that our resources could instead be spent on making online as successful as it can be. And nobody wants to, we heard the very first teacher say, I want my kids to be there, I need that interaction as a parent, my kids need that interaction. But I just don't see any school of our size, maybe smaller schools are different, of our district size that can sustain a full semester in person in the middle of a pandemic. So I would rather we focus on making online, letting the teachers and helping families with connections. I think the two biggest things that I absolutely feel are my kids need social interaction, and I'm a full-time working parent married to a full-time working parent. So how can we help families overcome? And I'm sure there's other things they have to overcome, but those are two big ones. And focus on getting that system working. And then, if Laura Mitchell, who's the superintendent for Cincinnati Public Schools last night, said, as a community, if we can follow these guidelines and get on track, that's our best hope to getting school kids back in school safely. I would rather that we focus right now, and we're not actually looking at it, focus starting the year online and getting a system working, and in the hope that in however long, a couple months, January, we can be back.
I would just like to comment on the resources piece. Any of the money that we've described that, for instance, Rob looking at a plexiglass partition or something of that nature, that would come from CARES Act money, would not necessarily be able to be used for some of the online stuff that you're talking about. So that money is earmarked for specific items that we can spend it on. And I will tell you that we being resources that we're talking about for online learning, and we are going to dedicate the first week beginning August 14th, Friday, August 14th, with our staff for them. It'll be a model where they help design what's needed, and then also a model where they get to pick and choose what their specific needs are. It won't be a one-size-fits-all. So we are addressing that piece as well.
Yeah, theoretically, conceptually, I guess, I think this is great. This is exactly where we need to go. But when I start to look at what has been happening in the last, really, some of the stories coming out, the schools opening, it really spreads so quickly, and it can be devastating. Somebody talked about, if the wrong person gets it, it's the ultimate devastation. So while in theory this makes sense, okay, we're in a level 2, there isn't much of the virus in the area right now, we should be fine. It doesn't take long to go from, whether it's in Claremont County or within the district or building, from a level 2 to a level 3. And I just wonder if we are, despite being in a level 2, assuming we are, so here we are, 2 weeks before school starts. Who knows where we could be by then? We could be
Correct.
so, it's just, there's no way to know. Thursday, we may be back in red. So what are we going to call it? You're saying that the decision will be made on Thursday, following, and then announced on Friday. First of all, is that what we're going to do for the start of school? Second of all, are we perhaps better off saying we're going to spend the first 4 weeks online, fully remote, first quarter, something, to see what happens in our area and other schools, because other schools are going to open, and if it runs rampant, we'll have a much better idea of what we would be facing. And I think better data to make some of these decisions. Back to the real question was, when you make the final decision about the 24th?
Well, I believe that if you, as a approve the plan, the plan would be that the Thursday before school starts, we're looking at the data to see where things are trending. If we're currently in a yellow or orange, then we're coming to school. If we're in red, then I think we really need to look at the data, have a discussion with Julianne Nesbitt from the Claremont County Public Health, and then, get Patty Price involved, the team, and have a discussion with the board,
So,
or
yeah, I
with
think
Chris, and then make that decision.
I think we need to make that really clear that we are not deciding tonight if we're going to be in school on the 24th. 24th, is that right?
Correct, the 24th. You are correct. As it stands, you're approving the plan, and inside the plan gives the board and the superintendent, district administration, the ability to make those decisions based on the color coding.
And it should be noted that we do have our regularly scheduled board meeting the Thursday before the start of school on August 20th. So we will be back together
Really?
to review data at that time.
I didn't even notice that.
Guys, people at home still can't hear you. They can hear Ron great, but they can't hear anything you guys are saying.
Thank you. Also, just some data in terms of how we've moved from a level 2 or level 3 to a level 2 in the last few weeks. I tracked the number of cases in Claremont County from starting the week of July 5th, and then did it on a weekly basis. We seem to have peaked around the 4th of July with 124 total cases, or 18 cases per day on average. The week of the 12th, we moved from 124 to 101. July 19th, we had 78 positive cases in Claremont County. And then last week, we moved down to 61 total positive cases, or an average of 9 per day, or about half of where we were on the week of the 5th. So the trend has definitely been down, certainly the reason why we've moved from level 3 to level 2. Hospitalizations remain very low for the county. The death rate stands at 11, which is 11 too many cases, according to the Claremont County. 850 cases since the beginning, 20 recovered, and deaths. This is a county of estimated 207,000 residents population.
I want to clarify. So I think the one of the biggest resources that I am concerned about is teacher time as far as planning. I mean, I'm trying to plan as a parent, what is my day going to look like starting August 24th? I'm not a teacher, but I would imagine that this is the time of year that they start planning what it is. And that's, if they don't know what they're training until the week of the 17th, they presumably can do so on their own, what online looks like. But if they still don't have an answer, they don't have an answer as to what am I teaching next week, are we asking them to do double work, plan for both?
I believe our staff, and I know our staff, especially through think tanks that we run, and then Jill and Rob working with our remote learning specialists, they're not waiting. They know they're planning. That's what they do. I know they've been planning all summer. Certainly having candid conversations with many of them. They're prepared for either. And they know that it's work. I think Shane would be the first one to tell us that there's a lot of front loading and working to be remote. But I would consider Shane to be an expert in that area and would follow his lead. And I just know that Shane has been working on both. He may not be the typical teacher, but I believe he is. I believe that staff, they're working and looking towards both. And they're not waiting for training that week. We're going to give them some professional development, but it won't be, it shouldn't be for many of them just, the first time they've seen something. So they've been working and looking at materials and different ways to teach remotely with the assumption that they'll be remote at some point.
I have every confidence to believe that teachers are going to be ready to go to the online program at any time. And I think one of the things we ought to consider is the fact that I'm not so sure that students are necessarily ready to jump into the online immediately without some guidance by the teacher. And I think one of the arguments for starting school in person on the 24th would be an opportunity for teachers to get to know the students and the expectations, students to understand the expectations from the teacher, et cetera. So I have very mixed feelings here, and I'm not...
The assumption that we're going to go out at some point, we're hoping and praying for 2 to 4 weeks with our kids, because the most important thing that our staff will do is to build relationships with students, love on them, get to know them. That'll be the most important thing that they can do. And then secondary to that will be for them to work with the students on what it's going to look like should we go remote. And get them prepped and ready for that. So we're praying that if we're able to get in, that it's for at least 2 to 4 weeks so that those relationships and that foundation can be built.
The families who's online aren't using the opportunity to bond with teachers too.
No, but certainly me bonding with you online versus me bonding in person with a teacher in that sense of community looks different. It feels different. And we certainly know that the staff that will be teaching Eagle online, or should we start remote, I mean, that's what they will do. Absolutely.
And the other thing is that those that are going online have made that choice. That's their choice to not have the end time, the end class time. So you're making your choice. There's no room to complain about I didn't get what I want. That's my takeaway here is you're giving every parent of every student in this district 466 of them, I believe is the number. We're giving every one of them the opportunity to say, I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that. Right now, we're sitting here talking about take away from the half your district. No, let's get it in. Let's see where we're at. We're going to vote on polling tonight. We're not voting on whether we're coming back or whether we're going to do remote. We don't have enough information to do that. Don't take that out of our hands.
teachers, I mean, they need this socialization as much as everybody else. So it sort of feels like if you're choosing Eagle Online, we're putting all of our resources into how do we make in-person work. If you chose online, obviously know what you're doing, so good luck. That's what I hear you say, and I'm not choosing for my I'm not choosing Eagle Online for my kids because I don't think I need to connect with their teachers.
Now you've got 80% of the people saying, we want to be in class. There should be probably the 80% of the effort going into having the classrooms ready to go, and 20%, a good 20% for the
10% on the sides.
everything.
We care about those students and we care about those staff members, and we want to make sure that those staff for those students. So let's not mistake that we're giving 110% to both groups of folks.
You've
Well
got
said,
three
John.
you need to give 110% to, though.
Say
The
that
third
again.
one, you've got a third one you need to give 110%. So now we're up to 330. The third one is that transition between in-person to remote learning, because it's going to happen. So, we've different, I don't know, areas, buckets that we need to prepare for, and it's huge.
It's a huge undertaking for all schools, certainly our staff, and they've committed their hours to the think tanks and the committee meetings and the remote learning specialists and all their time in all those areas. There's definitely not a lack of commitment and hard work by our staff and teachers and our principals and others. And let us not forget about our custodians and admin assistants, and they're doing the same thing. So everybody's committed to coming back if that's what we need to do. If it's such that we're not, the same thing will happen there too.
Do we have any other questions regarding the return to learning plan? I know it's not just this evening. We poured over a lot of this data over the last several weeks as this plan has been continued to be built. You will have time during the discussion to approve the return to learn plan for 2021 school year with the small amendment as noted by John earlier that sits in front of you tonight.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion. We'll start with Dave Yockey.
I still have very mixed emotions about all of this. I think I'm going to vote for the plan as such, with a caveat that the administration be very careful on top of this, and if we do see something break out, that we're very quick to pull the trigger and to go back to online at that point. But I think that at the very beginning, it is important that teachers get to know their students, and I think that can make the online much more successful as the year goes on. But I'm open to more comments from all of you.
Andrea?
Well, as I said, I do agree with this conceptually. It makes perfect sense when you put it on paper. There's so many factors to consider. Balancing all the various needs, and we're never going to do it perfectly. We just have to do the best we can. For our families, if we're to make in-school work at all, we have to have their partnership. Parents need to be telling their children, you have to wear your mask. If a parent at home is saying, oh, it's not important, it's not going to work. If the parent is not reinforcing that we're going to have to keep distance, it's not going to work. There's a difference of opinion between the CDC and local doctors. The CDC says 6 feet, some local doctors, and the WHO says 3 feet. So, I'm not as uncomfortable with the 3 feet as I was after doing some research. But that 3 feet does have to be respected. The masks have to be respected. comfortable saying that we should be going back on the 24th, but it's 3 weeks away. We'll see what happens. And if the trend continues in the wrong way, then we can say we are going to go remote. But we have to, I'm really happy, I'm sorry, I'm just kind of jumping around all over here, but with all of the things that you're doing, the buildings, plans, the new equipment, all of that, so that's great. And we need to continue to look into options that we can add and just try to make sure that we keep it as safe as we possibly can.
I would with Mr. Yaki and Mrs. Brady too that there's been obviously a ton of work, and there's some things that even as a parent help me understand what it looks like in each plan. And there are a lot of places saying kids need to be in person, and I agree with that. I mean, the children's published a blog today that said they should be in person. With this minor, I want these teachers to sit in a room of 7th graders, mostly boys, like, you know, they can't maintain distance, and, you know, it's the friends they haven't seen since, you know, how long. So, caveat of opening school is fine as long as masks, social distancing, and hand washing is followed. I don't trust 200 adults to do that. If myself, I don't see how school can be in person this fall and keep people healthy, because one really sick student or teacher is one too many for me.
Hey, Brandon.
First, Superintendent Spicer, thank you to you and your staff and all the building administrators and all the teachers that have poured their heart and soul into this plan. I know it's I see the give and take, and people playing devil's advocate and doing all the right things to try to get to the bottom line, which is the plan. In the past few weeks, I had dozens of people email me, and I probably talked to over 100 people personally about what's going on at the return. And the majority, as we had want to be here in school. And that can be for reasons such as they don't have anywhere else to get their kids, they have to work. That can be because they feel safe. It's really not because they don't feel safe. I also have had, to be fair, I have had some contacts that have said they don't think they're going to send their kids to school. And explaining why, and then we know this plan gives everybody the opportunity to do what's best for them. And nowhere in the plan, anywhere here says, if you're uncomfortable, you have to send a kid in. If you do that, you do that on your own. So I don't think anybody can send somebody in to a place where they don't feel safe. As a board, we have a responsibility to, for one, keep the students and our employees safe. Number two, abide by all the laws of the state of Ohio. And we also have a responsibility to provide the highest quality educational opportunities possible for our students. We owe them that. That is what we do. During all these unprecedented times, we've said that 1,000 times, fear of the unknown is really on center stage, and everybody has their own unique set of circumstances, and we want to get them the opportunity for them. Are there risks? Sure. There are risks coming to this meeting tonight. Some people don't feel, if they don't feel safe in the classroom, I'm guessing they're not here. I'm guessing that people out here that are teachers that I know feel safe, or they've been I would like to see the kids get in here and get started, and you hope for the best, but very vigilant in what you do. may be a little bit too late for people because it's Thursday and Friday.
Change and go back into remote right from the very beginning. But I think with that, I think I will vote for the plan per se, with the caution that we just need to be very careful and not let it get out of hand. And if it starts to get out of hand in the least, that we need to move to the remote option at that point.
And let's make it clear that a vote for this plan tonight, a vote yes for this plan tonight, if things do not change between now and the 24th, we will be starting in school on the 24th without some extraordinary circumstances.
Hopefully.
I really want to thank everybody. I know the amount of time and effort from our staff that's been put into this for the last 3 months, as we've tried to figure out what this is going to look like in the fall. But it's a very comprehensive plan. It covers a lot of how many people we're actually going to be coming back into our classrooms versus are going to choose online learning. I also want to thank those in the community who speak. I really appreciate that. I've also received several emails, opinion of just one person, because we've got to find a really tough decision to send students into our buildings or commit to be online for this first semester. We know this decision is not easy. We know that our ability to get back in the buildings and stay in the buildings has risk. We know that we are going to need to be flexible. Logistics work, what logistics do not work. And at the end of the day, the plan is about choice. The plan is about risk. While remote is ideal for mitigating the transmission risks, it does not address concerns with mental and emotional health, reliable nutrition, reliable physical activity, and other support services. Schools have always played a key role in our community. This pandemic has created real challenges and change to develop our youth. Even if you choose in-person learning, our schools will look vastly different this year. They won't look the same. But we know that with both options, you'll be receiving a Milford education. The education will be more rigid and defined, consistent between the two options. While we will be able to provide a core, which is maybe a little more challenging, I'm confident that our staff will look to address some of these issues on a case-by-case basis. And remember, this is not the spring. Students will be pushed to follow a schedule, complete assignments, and be graded. Finally, I ask that our community be patient of our is not a perfect plan because one does not exist. There are going to be mistakes and changes along the way. Phone calls and emails tend to get things resolved faster. Bring this together, and we'll try and make it work for everyone. So hang in there.
I'd just like to say, too, we need to make very certain that when the press release goes out about this meeting, that people really do understand that this is not a decision whether we're going to be in school on the 24th or not, that we're approving the plan subject to the conditions at the time and the superintendent's judgment in terms of the actual safety of being in school on the 24th.
Agreed. Any other comments? We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Brady?
Yes.
Mrs. Chestnut?
Yes.
Mr. Miranda?
Yes.
Mr. Yaki?
Yes.
Mr. Ham?
Yes, thank you. Item number 2.
Thank you, President Ham, members of the board. This evening I have for you the first reading of the following policies. Number 1, ACA, ACAA, which is the non-discrimination on the basis of sex, sexual harassment. This is a change in the Title IX coordinators in name. Jenny Berkeley will now be listed as one of those coordinators in place of me. Item 2, AC, is the non-discrimination attachment. This is same thing. Jenny Berkeley will be listed as the compliance officer in civil rights as well. Item 3, AFC-1, evaluation of professional staff. This policy has been in place before you tonight. The reason for we do need this to be done before the September board meeting. This is for the Ohio Teacher Evaluation System 2.0. We were a pilot school district. We were part of that the last 2 years. Last year, full implementation. Mr. Fitzhugh here, he was part of that pilot team as well, so he is well aware of that. Work with him. So we're asking you to take a look at OTES 2.0. And lastly, number 4, EBEA, is the use of face coverings. So we're asking for that policy to be reviewed today. And that is it.
Thank you, Superintendent Spicer. We now move on to item 3, which is our second opportunity for public speaking. If anyone would like to speak this evening.
We need to change or adapt, I guess, EBEA, given the governor's order from today?
We may need to, we'll have to look at that. I want to
Okay.
look at the order itself. Again, I did not have the opportunity to look at that. If there is a need for a change, then we'll make that change.
Does that throw us backwards?
I think
or
it
does
could throw
this-
us back, yes, Brian.
Yeah, I'd have to compare the two.
Okay.
Yeah, if we have to make a
Yeah, that's a
change, I think we
possibility.
might have to make it a first reading then. But
Okay.
we'll consult with council.
Okay, and we can still start, well, because it's law, so it, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, my question was going to be, are we voting on this at the August meeting or at the September meeting? I think you said September.
If we have to come back in September, we will vote. If there is we're going to, 1, 2, and 3 for sure. We're going to August 20th.
Okay?
And then number 4, if there is a change to the policy based on the order from today, then we would need to do a second reading at the September board meeting.
Okay.
I'm not sure that it should be necessary to make a change in the policy itself because state regulations are going to supersede the policy anyway.
There you go.
And do we accept cards for the second public participation, or that's just open?
We do, but
Okay.
if we don't have one, that's fine.
You'd like to speak? So if you would just state your name and address, and then also you'll have 3 minutes.
You want my address?
I'm sorry?
Yep.
My name is Jane Loomis. I live on Betty Lane, right down
Closer
there.
to the mic if you can.
Oh, closer to the mic. Well, could I move it up?
There you go.
Jane Loomis, and I live on Betty Lane, right around the corner. I have been the site leader for Site Health's Whiz Kids program. We are all volunteers who work with some of the at-risk kids for the last 7 years for Site Health. And I know the families that we've worked with are very the program, but after listening to all of this tonight, which is why I came, I wanted to get the I'm going to delay our start until January because I want to see how all of this works out in the school system, and our kids who are at risk don't need more confusion in their life. They need stability, and that's one thing we give them one-on-one program. But I have a couple questions that I didn't hear covered that I thought might be in your plan that wasn't really important enough to bring up, except it would be for our program. Transportation. The school has brought our kids from Cypel to Trinity, where we hold it, because it's a 2-hour program after school, and it includes a dinner for families. And I didn't know if the transportation for outside activities was going to be altered. Where the second thing was, are there any new regulations regarding
It was 3 questions, I think, answered 2. What was the other one? Yeah. So I think we got it. Okay. Very good.
Very good. Anyone else would like to speak for second public participation? Okay, hearing none, we'll ask for a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Brady?
Yes.
Mrs. Chestnut?
Yes.
Mr. Miranda?
Yes.
Mr. Yaki?
Yes.
Mr. Ham?
Yes, thank you, and thank you, everyone.